Q&A. I'm your host, CEO of the PBA, Colie Edison. This is the show where we ask the biggest names in bowling the really important questions. Today on the show, we have the legend himself, the over 40-time PBA Tour champion, Mr. Norm Duke. All right, Norm, so how are things down in Florida?
Everything is great down in Florida. I mean, we're of course, social distancing. So once you get past that, it's a really good place to spend your social distancing time because we have awesome weather right now. The golf courses are open, so there is at least something to do. So we're all happy. We're just wanting to get back to the game of bowling.
You and me both. Well, I'm glad we could talk bowling today if we can't play it. I don't know if you've tuned into the show, but we have 3 different segments. We're going to do some tech talk. We're going to ask you to plead the fifth frame or answer our questions honestly, and then we'll get to some PBA trivia. Are you ready?
Okay.
You have what it takes?
I don't, but I'm ready.
You do. So, Norm, how many balls do you bring with you when you are out on the PBA Tour?
That's a great question because there's more than one tour. So I'm a little different than most in that I have a set of about 15 to 18 on the regular tour. And then I have a set from about 12 to 15 on the senior tour. So at any given time, I probably have 30, 35 bowling balls. And I have to manage what city they're going to and from what truck. So I have to really keep a close contact with Keith Brovald, who does so much for me. I can't tell you how accommodating those guys are with players.
Shout out to Keith. So out of all of those balls, which one is your favorite?
Wow, the one that is striking the most at present is my favorite. I don't hold none of those bowling balls, once they stop striking, out of here. I don't hold any of them so close to my heart that I won't get rid of it. And that is what I trained myself to do is say, look, don't fall in love with something.
That's right. And have you seen the technology of bowling balls change throughout the start of your career till now?
Yeah, almost all of the technological advancements I've seen. So I missed the wood to rubber.
Okay.
And I caught all the other ones. Yeah. And you know what? One of the hardest things to do is to keep an open mind all the time about the equipment. Because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. And you feel like once you grasp it, you've grasped it forever. No. You have to keep up with it. And so I ask so many questions to the youth that is bowling so well on our tour. And they think that I'm kind of, maybe pulling one over on them. They think, well, Norm has to know these answers, right? But that's how I learn is I keep the young guys, I keep questions thrown at them all the time, just in case.
So if you were talking to somebody who's coming up about equipment, how would you recommend they choose the right bowling ball?
Wow. Bowling balls are just like golf clubs in a sense that a 4-iron is good for 180. It's not so good off the drive most of the time. It's not a putter. So we use equipment to do what it is we need. So if I need something that's going to roll real early, then I'm going to build a big shell. I'm going to probably drill it to roll early. But that doesn't mean that that's what I use everywhere I go. The very next week, it might require that I do exactly the opposite. So we try to have enough equipment in our arsenal to at least steer us in the direction of what might be the mega advantage. And always there's an advantage out there. It's our job to find it.
What do you think is the most challenging oil pattern to bowl on?
None of them. And there's a good reason for that. Most people can tell you what is their favorite pattern. Under no circumstances do I go there because a favorite means you have a least favorite, and there lies the problem. And I don't want to get on an airplane and go into a city knowing that I'm on my least favorite pattern. So to me, they're all the same. Their scoring paces are different. It's my job to figure them out. And when you say, which one do you like the most or most comfortable on even? I have no preference ever for that reason. I don't want to have the opposite.
So as somebody, you said you've been golfing, how do you compare, oil patterns on a bowling lane to, conditions on a golf course?
Yeah, they're a lot alike in a sense that you get a feel for both. You know, you have to feel what 100 yards is and what 180 is. You know what the yard is, but you still have to feel it. And we feel more of the oil patterns than I think any other sport because we can't see them. We're more in tune to what they feel like. And when I say feel, you're watching the response, but it is absolutely a feel. And when you have a good feel, then typically you can do good. It's some of those times when you get out there and the lane looks like a blank slate to you. It looks like just a blank slate. That's when you're doing awful because the lane's not speaking to you. And if it is, it's telling you you got no help. So the worst thing that we can do playing patterns is to see nothing and to feel nothing. That's when our job is just not being done.
I like that it's a feeling more so than a visualization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your visual is only the arrows, right? So
Right.
you have to feel it or you're gone.
So tell me, let's go way back. You won your first PBA title in 1983.
That's way back.
That's way back. That may be the year that I was born, actually. But you didn't win your second title until 7 years later. Tell us what that was like and how you were able to, really stay competitive during that 7-year slump.
Well, I was just moderately competitive, if that. I had 3 years in a row that I guarantee you, I was working outside of bowling. I had a grip company that I was trying to promote. And I just saw too many pro shops in between the stops. And while I was bowling, I didn't realize that you could get fried and not know it. That was part of the problem. But the main thing that I knew that I was one-dimensional and that I had to add so many more elements to my game to be as competitive as I wanted to be. And then as soon as you add, let's say, this capability, well, somebody's doing that every day of their life and have been for years. So you're right up somebody's alley there. So you add this motion over here. Well, that's this guy's. So let's say I build a straight game. Well, Dave Traver's done it all his life. You still have to beat him when the straighties have an advantage. And then when you get your hook game going, and that seems all great, well, here's Robert Smith. You got to get through him. Most of those 8 years was my confidence never really got big because every time I felt like I had an advantage, I was bowling the greatest in the world at that. And they had what they need to win. So, boy, it just each year seemed to compound another year until I had to contemplate quitting more than once, often during those 8 years. But it was my college. I stayed with it. I was learning, and I knew it. And I just said, look, if you've got nothing else you can do, you're not going to go back to school. And I didn't have any skills other than bowling. So really, I had no choice. So I got better eventually.
Yes. So you've seen, you mentioned a couple of the old great timers, and now you've talked about the guys who are really dominating in our field right now. What was it like when you first saw a two-handed bowler? And what do you think of two-handed bowling now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I first saw two-handed bowling when I was 4 years old because I did it. I mean, all of us started out bowling with two hands if we started young enough. So this is not a new thing. I always want people to realize, look, in the 70s and the 80s, two-handed bowlers would not have made money. Well, trust me. They would have been out to lunch so quickly that they would have abandoned it just as quickly as we did. Until
Why is that?
We started, well, because there was no room on the lane, and the ability to get the ball down lane before it hooked was the big thing. Well, if you put that many revs on a bowling ball, even if it was a blue dot, the straighties are throwing blue dots. What's a Belmonte going to do with a blue dot? And now I understand they can throw it 30 feet in the air, but the ball would have bounced and it would have went crazy. Look, there was no advantage back then, or there would have been people doing it. It's not like we didn't know how to create an advantage, just the same as we know how now. We just went from getting as much revolutions as we can possibly get on a bowling ball with one hand, because that's how we bowled, to then watching people trump us with two hands. Well, when we first see it on tour, we think, well, that probably won't last very long. Wait till the scores get low. And then we found out how very good those players could be. To say that Jason Belmonte is not world class, even going straight, is ridiculous. He is as good as anybody I've ever seen. I will say, however, that in the 70s and 80s, he's going to play heck trying to beat Mike Durbin and Ernie Slagle when all they're doing is backing the ball up from second arrow. And I throw in as hard as I can. I can't keep the ball on the lane. So the environment changes. You have to change with that environment. And I do know, I'm not guessing here, there is more room now than has ever been in the history of bowling. And it's because of 4 or 5 factors. One, the bowling balls can hook more. The potential hook is there. We did not have that. So we put less oil on the lanes. We dressed them once a day. By the night rounds, you couldn't get a ball down the lane with a shovel. So then, 2, you got the oil has changed. Then the application of the oil. Now all the lanes are almost identical because of the machines, where we had that spray gun where a guy's pumping it at 4 a.m, maybe on 2 hours of sleep. Sorry, Lenny, if you're watching. Lenny and Lon, we love them. But just so much has changed. So when I watch the golfers on television, I see the same thing. Jack Nicklaus never hit a ball carried 330 in his lifetime. He never. But if you put him in his prime and you put that equipment in his hands, all of a sudden you'll see a lot of the things exactly the same.
And I think that's the great debate in our sports and others. Does it matter? Is the greatest bowler now, would he be the greatest bowler back then? Or has the equipment really muddied the water? So we're not talking about an apples to apples situation.
Yeah, I think people don't give the player credit enough. Let's take Jason Belmonte, for instance. I've said this many times. I think he would be the #1 player in the world in the 70s and 80s. He would have just done it with one hand.
Right.
He would have figured out that, wait a minute, this is the advantage. I'm going this direction. I do remember a time when he could play up 5 with one hand because he wasn't very good at it, I don't think, yet. Now he does it with 2 hands as good as anybody. His spare game is incredible, where I know he had to build that. That is something that's hard to do with 2 hands. And I watch all of the other 2-handers struggle with it. But when you look at Kyle Troup and Anthony Simonson and Belmo, 3 of the best spare shooters in the world right now, and they're doing it with 2 hands. So they have definitely learned this craft. They've perfected it. There's no doubt about it.
Now I want to get into a little bit more about you. Is that okay?
It's all about me.
All right. The way that we play this, it's called Plead the 5th frame. We want honesty. And if you can't give us honesty, then just plead the 5th frame. Norm, are you the greatest bowler of all time?
No, Lord, no. No chance, no way. And here's why. I'm in my 39th year. I've got 40 titles. I'm averaging just over maybe 1 per year. Earl bowled probably 15 years or something like that. He averaged 2.5 to 3. Earl Anthony is one of the best. I think the best I've ever seen up until Jason Belmonte was Walter Ray. Look, Walter was better than Earl just because of evolution. I may very well have been better than Earl just because of evolution. However, as we evolve, so do others. And we see the Jason Belmonte, there's more than just Jason out there right now. Anthony Simonson and Kyle Troup are killer. These guys they're so impressive. It's crazy. No, I am not in a lot of people's class regarding that. Sorry to say.
All right. So
I wish I could.
When did you first realize you were famous?
Wow. I've always said, Colie, that I want to be rich and famous when I grow up. I want to be rich and famous. And I realized one day that I had become famous. And it is when I was oftentimes walking with other pros and I would get stopped and people would ask me for my autograph or a photo or something like that, and they wouldn't even recognize whomever I'm with. And sometimes it was Brian Voss, and occasionally it was even Pete Weber, to tell you the truth. I've gotten that from Pete as well when somebody comes up to Pete and they don't recognize me. But at those moments, I would guess probably about 15 years ago, I recognized that, look, because we don't have helmets when we play, because they zoom right into our face and we're not sharing the camera with 11 other players or 9 other players, and we're not being, they're zooming on in there. Well, people can recognize us. And it's not that they think that we're better or bigger or badder or faster. It's just that they see us on television, they recognize us, and they're like, wow, that's that guy.
All right. So if you had to choose for your next doubles partner between CP3 and Jerome Bettis, who would you choose and why?
Ouch. That hurts because CP3 and I have won the CP3 Invitational before, and Jerome Bettis is one of my favorite people in the world, as CP3 is. I'd say because I've already bowled with Chris Paul, Jerome Bettis. He's just, you can't help but smile when he's in the room, and I love smiling. So come on, Jerome, let's go and smile our way to 35th place or something. Plus, he's a very good bowler.
That is awesome.
He's very good.
So, he's great. He's awesome. He bowled with us for the Elite Series, as you know, and he's really fun to be around. What's the one thing people don't know about you that you want them to know about you?
I'm flawed. I'm hugely flawed. I mean, people put me on a pedestal. Not everybody. You know, a lot of people know I'm flawed. Others don't. And they put me in this, in the stratosphere that I can't possibly live up to. But so I'd want everybody to know that, look, let's start from really flawed. That way, if I'm not really terrible today, maybe you still like me.
We're going to head into our final segment of the program, which is PBA Trivia. Now, Norm, you've been in the PBA for almost 40 years. There's going to be a really high expectation for you to get these questions correct.
Yeah, but I lost my memory about a dozen years ago. So,
all right. So, the other thing is, as we do these shows, the questions are getting a little harder. So,
yeah, I heard the one where what's 3 opens in a row, and they missed it.
Yeah. Okay. So I am going to let you know that right now, currently EJ is tied with Kyle for first place. So he has 5, they have 5 points. Also, Bill asked and basically begged his way into getting 5 points as well. So we have a 3-way tie between Bill O'Neill, EJ Sackett, and Kyle Troop. Your goal is to get 6 questions right so you can show those guys who really has the PBA trivia chops.
Okay. My over and under number is 3.
Again, setting the low expectations.
Yep, way down there.
All right, so we're going to put 60 seconds on the clock. It'll start after I read the first question.
Okay.
In 2014, you became one of only 2 bowlers to win both the PBA 50 Rookie of the Year and PBA 50 Player of the Year in the same year. Who is the other bowler?
Mika. Don't know.
You're looking for Tom Baker. During the 06-07 tour season, you broke the record for average for a season with 228.47. The record held for 7 years until 2013, when your record was broken by whom?
Amuleto Monaco.
Jason Belmonte.
Darn.
You bowled 2 with 300 ties in match play. Can you name the year, city, and rival for one of those 2 ties?
Las Vegas, Purvis, Granger, 88.
87! You were so close. All right. You bowled 3 consecutive perfect 300s in PBA tournament play. In what city and in what year did you do this?
That was in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I'm going to guess it was 97.
96! All right, I think time is up.
Yeah, I got 0.
I think the answer, I think you got 0 correct. But these, again, were really
my new
hard.
nickname. My new nickname.
But
Bill O'Neill.
2-ish partially correct. So actually, I'm going to give you 2 points. These are pity points. But
Pity
you get
points? Oh, can I get some bribery points too? Can I come up with?
Yes, 3 points. You got 3 points total. That gives Norm Duke a final score of 3 points at PBA Trivia. Norm, you are such a legend. I love hanging out with you. It's been so great having you on the show. What do you want to say to our fans at home who are waiting for us to get back out on the lanes?
I would say exactly that. Look, let's be patient and wait. The last thing we want is to make this worse than it already is. We got to stick it out now. I mean, we've come this far. Stick it out. And look, we're going to fast forward through this in a couple, 3 or 4 months, however long it takes, and we're going to get right back. We're not even going to remember COVID-19, but right now we got to give it its due. And so let's stay safe, everyone, and think bowling.
All right, wise words from Mr. Norm Duke. We can't wait to get out on the lanes and hear Duke really loud. Hopefully that's sometime soon, but until then, everyone please stay safe at home. And remember to send in your videos using the hashtag #BowlAtHome and show us how you are bowling at home. Again, a big thank you to all our first responders, all our health heroes out there, and tune in for the next episode of PBA Q&A. Thanks, Norm, and thanks to all the fans at home.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, fans.